Hello everyone, welcome back to Basics of Epidemiology. So, in the last class, we tried to understand what is descriptive epidemiology, and we tried to learn different terminologies used in epidemiology, right? Like infection, infestation, what do you mean by communicable disease, etc. So let us continue a little bit about these terminologies, and also let us learn about what is epidemiological triad in a better way today. Okay, so today we'll be learning these two learning objectives. So let us start with the first term, epidemic. So let us understand what does epidemic mean. You are hearing this epidemic, pandemic and all a lot nowadays, right? So what is exactly an epidemic? So it's a bit different definition. So let us start with very simple terminology, a simple sentence. Epidemic is the unusual occurrence of a disease. Okay, so what do you mean by unusual? Unusual, usual, opposite terminologies, right? What is usual? Usual is something which is generally happening, which you see on daily basis. There is nothing different about it, right? But unusual is something which is different. It is suddenly a big one or a very small one or something which is very different from what usually occurs, right? So, unusual occurrence of a particular disease. Okay, so now, where does this disease occur? It occurs in a particular community or a region. For example, the COVID-19 disease, the infection, it started in a particular region, in a particular community, right? What is that? It is Wuhan in China. So it started there. So then later it became an epidemic in China, and from there it started coming out, right? So unusual occurrence in a community or region of a disease. Now, the epidemic doesn't only, the terminology doesn't only limit to any disease, okay? So it applies even to any specific health related behavior, not only an infection. It is not just an infectious disease. It can be a non-infectious disease or a habit or anything. Okay, so it might be a disease or it might be a health related behavior. Okay, health related behavior is a new terminology for you again. So what do you mean by behavior? Behavior is anything what you do, what any person does, right? Habits. So the habits can be very healthy habit, like sudden epidemic of yoga. Okay, so doing yoga, many people nowadays started doing yoga, different various forms of exercises and everything. It becomes like an epidemic. It can be a good epidemic as well. It cannot be always a bad one. Okay, so any behavior, for example, specifically smoking or these habits, alcohol consumption or such habits which have an influence over the health. Okay, so those are called as health related behaviors. Okay, or any other related events as well, like traffic accidents, for example. Okay, suddenly the traffic accidents increase in number. So what is the relation? Why is it increasing? So we start investigating in that as well. So the terminology can be used to that also, like an epidemic of traffic accidents. Okay, so it can be used to any health related behavior or health related event as well. Okay, so disease, behavior or event, whichever influences the health or modifies the health status, can be like prefixed with epidemic term. Okay, so now you understand. So let us again summarize this. The unusual occurrence in a community or region of disease or specific health related behavior or other related events. Fine? Okay. Now, when we say unusual, we are comparing it to something, right? What is the usual then? There must be a reason. For example, if we say traffic accidents, now what is the usual number of traffic accidents? to which we are comparing and we are saying that yes, this year it is unusual. Okay, so what is the usual number of disease to which we are comparing as unusual, that this year is a different one when we use the term epidemic? Okay, so let us understand that. Unusual means clearly in excess of expected occurrence. Okay, so now what is the expected occurrence? Expected occurrence is an increase in incidence above the expected in a defined geographic area within a defined time period. So remember, in last class we were discussing about PPT, right? Person, place, and time. So the same thing applies here as well. Every definition in epidemiology, it's like a mathematical science, okay? So everything is very structured, very well defined. You will never get any confusions here. Okay, so it's actually a very beautiful science. Just you need to have what you say, familiarize yourself with the base in which it is defined. So an increase in incidence above the expected in the defined geographic area within a defined time period is called as expected or unusual or unexpected occurrence, sudden increase, clearly in excess of expected occurrence. So, for example, if we say a particular disease occurs, for example, malaria. So, every year there is a particular number of cases who suffer from malaria in India. Okay, or you take, for example, in Karnataka or in Bangalore, so many cases of cholera will occur. So many cases of malaria will occur every year in a particular time, maybe the monsoons or maybe summer diseases or anything. If you say there is a particular time, there is usually a particular number of cases who suffer from the particular disease in a particular area. Okay, so suddenly, for example, say 1,000 people suffer from malaria every year in a particular district. Okay, and suddenly this year the particular disease or malaria cases are 10,000. So it is clearly excess, right? It could have been 1,200 or 900 or something like this. It should have been a variation around the average of 1,000. But this year it is suddenly 10,000. That means it is an outbreak. It is an epidemic. It is very clear that the number is very high. Understood this? So then only we use the term epidemic. There is also a terminology of outbreak. Outbreak is used when the disease cases start to increase. For example, outbreak of malaria. Okay, so a general increase of the numbers have started, but it is not clearly in excess. When it becomes clearly in excess, the term epidemic is used. So I'm sure now you are comfortable with the definition of epidemic, right? So let us just recite it once to understand it in a better way, to make it stick on our mind in a better way. See, the rule of three always, you repeat it 3 times always, okay? So that your brain registers the definition or the terminologies. It becomes familiar with it, okay? So the unusual occurrence in a community or region of a disease or specific health related behavior or other related events, health related events, clearly in excess of expected occurrence. Okay, so I'm sure you are now very clear about the definition of epidemic. Now let us move ahead and see the other terminologies which are related. Okay, so epidemic is also related with endemic or pandemic. Okay, so now what is endemic? N means inside, epi means outside, right? So epidemiology, when we were understanding the term epidemiology. Now N is inside. The habitual presence or usual occurrence of the disease within a given geographic area. Now, N means the usual occurrence. For epidemic, we said unusual occurrence. Unusual, more clearly in excess of expected occurrence, right? But whatever expected occurrence is there, what happens yearly, what is usual, that is endemic. Understood? Okay. Endemic is the phase, and suddenly from endemic, it can turn to epidemic. Okay. Now, what is pandemic? So, epidemic we already know. It is in a particular geographic area. But if that disease suddenly dissolves the geographic area and starts to spread throughout the world, a major chunk of world, like how the COVID did. It was very much restricted in China. Then suddenly the disease started erupting and affecting different parts, various parts of the world, and right now nearly whole of the world is covered with this pandemic. Okay, so then we use the term pandemic when it covers a major chunk of a continent or various continents. Only then we use the term pandemic. Okay, if you see the history, the terminology pandemic is not very generally used, right? There was a pandemic of swine flu. There was a pandemic of this plague, and then there is a pandemic of currently the COVID. This. So for nearly 100 years, we did not have any pandemic as such. Okay, so now you understand the difference between the terminologies. Okay, let us move ahead. Now, let us understand the difference between endemic and epidemic once more. Now, here is a graph. I'm plotting number of cases. Okay, so I'm plotting the graph against number of cases with time. Okay, now, when I see any disease occurring, the disease number of cases are continuously present but are in varying of the same average. This is endemic. Now, what happens? Suddenly the rise of the number of cases is there. Sudden rise. You can see the upward hill, right? So sudden rise in number of cases, that is epidemic. Okay, again it comes down, it becomes endemic again. Okay, so you understand the difference between endemic and epidemic now. I hope this is very clear now. Now let us move ahead to the next terminology. What is sporadic disease? Now sometimes we find some diseases which are very much scattered about. Okay, you don't even find any relations between the cases. If you try to track down the cases, how it might have come here, it is very difficult. They are irregularly spaced. They are haphazard from time to time and infrequent. Okay, so such cases are called as sporadic diseases. The cases are very few and they are widely spread in space and time. Space and time meaning they are not related in region. It might be a different geographic region wherever you find those cases, or even not even related to time. Like one case happens in, say for example, Bangalore in 2000. Okay, and then suddenly there is another case which is found in Bidar. Okay, so not even related geographic condition in 2004. So there is a difference between timeline, there is a difference between geographic area. If you try to trace it out, you won't even find a proper relation between the cases. Okay, so they don't show any connection between each other. There is no common source from which you can trace out, yes, this case in Bangalore and Bidar are related because of this. No, there is no relation at all. There is no relation of water or environment or anything for that matter. Okay, so this is how the sporadic diseases work. Okay, so for example, polio or tetanus. Very rarely we find a case of polio. Okay, nowadays polio, yes, it is near the verge of being extinct, but what you say, terminated. But yes, you get the idea. The cases are not at all related with time and space or in any manner. For example, yes, okay, we don't have this. So you understood what we mean by sporadic disease? Yes. Now coming to the term exotic disease. Exotic term itself, it is a self-explanatory. It is something which is from outside, which is different, okay, which is not from this area. So diseases which are imported into a country in which they do not otherwise occur are called as exotic. So COVID was an exotic disease actually. Okay, it was not a common disease which occurs in India. So for India, it was exotic. For example, rabies in UK. In UK, rabies, you will not find a single case of rabies. Okay, it is totally eradicated in UK. But rabies does exist in other countries. For example, in India, rabies exists. So UK, if a case of rabies from India travels to UK, then it means that it is an exotic disease for UK. Okay. For example, in history, we have a lot of history. So there are diseases like Firanga, which was exotic for us. That's why it was named as Firanga. Okay. So now, zoonosis. What do you mean by zoonosis? An infection or infectious disease which is transmittable under normal conditions from vertebrate animal to man. Now, it is not always man-to-man diseases. Okay, so sometimes it crosses over to animals, from man to animal or animal to man in any way. Okay, so there are diseases. For example, rabies itself, if you consider, rabies is a disease which comes from animals to man. It is not usually present in man, right? So in the same way, bovine tuberculosis, for example, from cows, this to us, like it is tuberculosis is also transmitted through milk, right? So in that way, so different diseases which transmit from vertebrate animals to us are called as zoonosis. There are other categories also, any animal for that matter, but for vertebrate, zoonosis. Okay, so but there are other diseases uh, which travel from birds to human beings, from what you say, sorry, some problem with the, yes. Now, there are some diseases which are traveling from birds to animals, from birds to bees. So let us move ahead to the next point of our learning objective, that is epidemiological triangle. So we did discuss about this epidemiological triangle, right, in the previous classes, where we were discussing the concept of causation. So we had various concepts of causation like germ theory, then we had different like a net of causation, and then we had epidemiological triad as well. So epidemiological triad, let us understand this triad because it is true even for now, and especially you can see even for the current COVID situation also, you'll be able to easily what you say kind of relate it to epidemiological triangle. Okay, so yes, so this is the epidemiological triangle. I'm sorry, it is today my PowerPoint is not listening to me, so you'll have to excuse me for this. Okay, something is, let us just give it a little bit of time. Till then, we'll speak about epidemiological triad, right? So epidemiological triad is something which has what you say, kind of three components. It is a triad, it is a triangle. So what are the three components? The three components are environment, host, and agent. Okay, so the environment host and agent together, when they combine, they produce a disease. Unless they combine, they will never produce any disease. Okay, so what kind of interaction it has to happen to produce a disease? So let us understand that, and let us understand what environment, agent and disease individually mean. Okay, so as soon as my screen will start to listen to me, we'll go to the screen. Yes, I think it is opening now. Finally, yes. Yes, so this is the epidemiological triangle. I'm really sorry for wasting your time so much, but yes, let us start. So environment, agent and host. These three factors are very important for any disease to occur. Now, what is agent? The agent is any disease causing causative factor. It can be animate or inanimate. It can be animate in the sense it can be a bacteria, virus or anything, or it can be inanimate like a nutritional factor as well. Like for example, say vitamin deficiency or mineral deficiency or excess vitamin or excess mineral or anything for that matter. Okay, or a digestive enzyme deficiency or anything, any condition. Or host is the person in whom the disease takes shelter. It can be a human body or an animal body, even plants also. Okay, so any living species which is capable of being infected or getting affected by an inanimate factor as well is called as a host. And then environment is a kind of a condition wherein the host and agent are situated. Okay, it is everything internal and external. Like for example, anything which influences the person, for example the environment, physical, biological, chemical, anything for that matter. Okay, so we'll understand these things in a better way, but I think you get an idea about what it is. Now these three factors exist separately. Okay, there is a coordination, yes, between agent and environment. Okay, the agent also, bacteria also needs to survive in the external temperature, moisture and everything. Okay, so there is a interaction going on. For example, okay, so I suppose it is not working. Now, for example, the interaction is happening between agent and the host, and the interaction is happening between the environment and the host. We are also in a particular environment, and the agent is situated inside us also. Sometimes there are beneficial bacteria. I might harbor tuberculosis bacteria. Okay, but it will not become a disease unless there is involvement of all the three. So you can see how the three things are getting involved here. Only then the disease occurs. So this is the only area where the disease can occur. Interaction between environment and host, no disease. Interaction between environment and agent, no disease. Interaction between agent and host, no disease. Only when all the three meet together, it causes disease. So I hope you understand it now. Okay, so let us understand what do you mean by a host. Okay, so host, we understand the host in different ways, in various ways. Okay, a person or an animal, including birds and arthropod, that affords substance or lodgement to an infectious agent under natural conditions. Okay, so an infectious agent can stay inside our body. Fine. So lodgement, it's like you think of a host body being like a hotel. Okay, so you provide food for the agent, you provide shelter for the agent. Okay, so you understand how the relation between host and the agent is. Okay, now what are the factors of host which you should take care of? which you should consider. It is a personal traits. So what is the behavior? What is the genetic predisposition? Immunological factors which might affect harboring the agent. So all these things you have to understand. For example, see what is the routine of the host, whether he has a healthy routine, whether he has something unhealthy behavior like smoking or like alcohol or walking barefoot on the streets. Okay, so I'm just giving some random examples, or just eating without washing your hands, or any unhygienic practices for that matter. They all come under personal trait and behavior. Okay, genetic predisposition, whether genetically the person is healthy or whether genetically he is modified, he is having genes in his body for cancer disease or diabetes or cardiovascular diseases or any particular such diseases. Okay, or the infection has traveled from mother to fetus. So all these things, or how the immunological factor is, environment is inside the host, like whether host is very strong immune system or he has a weak immune system. Okay, so all these factors matter a lot for a person to get the disease, get infection. And that is why we see that nowadays COVID infects some people very severely, and for some people it doesn't infect at all. There are no signs and symptoms. So you can understand this now, how the host factors affect. Okay, so now let us move to the next one. There are different variations of hosts. Okay, so there is a primary or a definitive host. Okay, classification of hosts when we say. So obligate host, when we use the term obligate host, it means only one host. Currently, COVID has obligate hosts. We don't know whether animals are getting infected with this or not. God save us if animals start getting infected with COVID. Okay, yes. So when only one variety of host is involved, that means it means only obligate host, only one host. But say for example, there are two variations of hosts involved. Like for example, malaria. It has what do you say, kind of a the insect, the fly, and the human body. Or plague, for example, it has rat, and then it enters into the human body. So there are two hosts involved. It is not only human body. So then we say primary or definitive hosts is the host in which the sexual stage occurs. Okay, so then the secondary host is the one where the intermediate host, or the in which the parasite is in its larval stage. Okay, then there is a transport host, which is just a carrier. There is no maturity happening, there is no sexual stage or anything. Okay, so there are multiple hosts involved: primary, secondary, and transport. Okay, we might require a transport host or not, that is a secondary one. But female Anopheles mosquito, for example, for malaria, is kind of a transport host as well as a primary or definitive the secondary host as well, where the sexual stage occurs. Okay, where the reproduction starts. Okay, so like that there are different variations. Transport host is like a bus or a vehicle wherein no change occurs inside that body, only the body transmits the host from the primary to secondary or secondary to primary. Okay, so these are different various types of hosts. We understand these better when we are studying the diseases. Okay, now coming to agents. What do you mean by agents? There are again different categories of agents. As you see, biological agents are bacteria, viruses, etc., which are living. Okay, physical agents are temperature, moisture, or anything which affects us, radiation, etc. Chemical agents are like actually chemicals like acids and bases, or even what you say, the nutritional factors. There are also chemicals, right? So maybe the vitamins, minerals, all these proteins are all chemicals. So they come under the chemical agents. So influence of any of these on our body, which will cause any particular condition or a disease, which will cause the deviation from the health status, are the agents. Now, I hope you are clear about what do we mean by agents. Agents are not just infective agents. They can be non-infective agents as well. Okay. Now, next one is the environment. What do you mean by environment? Environment is any external or internal condition. Anything which is outside and inside our body. Now, external condition can be physical, biological, and social. Even social environment affects us. Okay, so anything which affects the temperature or social gathering or interaction or mental environment which affects us in a way that can cause a disease is like environment interaction. Okay, so I hope you understand what these epidemiological traits mean now and how they interact with each other. So when do the epidemic occur? Epidemics occur when the host, agent, and environmental factors are not in balance. Okay, they lose their balance of being separate and interact all three together. Okay, now epidemics can also occur when a very new agent comes inside. COVID is said to be a new strain. It is not the usual one. Okay, so suddenly a new agent is coming wherein we are not at all prepared. Our immune system is not prepared, and yes, it gets affected and the disease erupts. Okay, so but if something which is already known, like malaria, yes, we are already like comfortable with the strain. Okay, we have already developed the immune system. We can recover from it very easily. It's not that bad. Okay, so like that, a different new strain comes in, and we get affected with it. Now, it can also occur due to change in existing agent of like infectivity, pathogenity, or virulence. So COVID was actually a strain which was already there. Coronavirus was already present, but COVID-19 was sudden change in the agent. The infectivity, the virulence, or the pathogenesis is very high. That is why it has become a pandemic, or else it wouldn't have infected so many people, right? So this is how it affects. Now, epidemics can also occur due to change in number of susceptibles in the population. So it is not always the what you say agent which is important. Sometimes the person, the host, is the susceptible person, right? If suddenly there is a change in the environment because of which the immune system of all people collapses. Okay, I'm giving different scenarios here. It is not the agent. The epidemiological triad has the three factors. Any of the factors can get affected, and it might lead to epidemic. For example, the last point, due to environmental changes, suddenly if there is continuous rain, there is an apocalyptic change in the world, and there is continuous rain or continuous what you say drought for a long time, it will change, it will affect and will cause one or the other diseases definitely. So what we try to do here is we always try to maintain the balance in the triad. The agent can stay safe and sound in its own environment, never enter inside a host, interact with the host in a way which can cause the disease. The environment can stay in very peaceful way, in which agent is also there, host is also there, but they are not interacting all three together. Host can also stay inside and can have cordial relations with the agent and the environment, never interact all the three together. So I hope you understand when the epidemics occur. Okay, so yes, we'll end our lesson today. So let us recap what all did we study in this class, apart from all the mishaps what can occur during a class. We understood the terminologies. We continued understanding various terminologies, but there are different terminologies and you can read it in the text. You can just go through it. There are many terminologies, okay? So we have taken very important ones right now. Then we understood what are the links of the tribe, the agent, host, and the environment in detail, and how it can cause an epidemic, right? So let us end today. Thank you very much for joining me in the class. I hope you revise it, you read the lessons again. So today we are coming to the end of this basics of epidemiology, the terminologies and everything. So in next class onwards, we'll try to understand the other concepts of epidemiology through which the disease is transmitted. Okay. So and the next point, very important point in your syllabus will be understanding. Okay. So thank you very much and have a nice day.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.